YouVersion app, Amplified Bible, Classic Edition, AMPC. Judges 20. Then all the Israelites came out in the congregation, assembled as one man to the Lord at Mitzvah, and Dan, even Beersheba, including the land of Gilead. And the chiefs of all the people and all the tribes of Israel presented themselves in the assembly of the people of God, 400,000 men on foot who drew the sword. Now the Benjamites, among whom the vile tragedy occurred, heard that the other Israelites had gone up to Mitzvah. There the Israelites asked, "How did the wickedness happen?" And the Levite, the husband of the woman who was murdered, replied, "I came to Gilead, which belongs to Benjamin, I and my concubine, to spend the night. And the men of Gilead rose against me and beset the house round about me by night. They meant to kill me, and they raped my concubine, and she is dead. I took my concubine and cut her in pieces, sent her throughout all the country of the inheritance of Israel, for they committed abomination and wicked folly in Israel. Behold, you Israelites, all of you, give here your advice and counsel." And all the people arose, and one man saying, "Not any of us will go in his tent, and none of us will return to his home. But now this we will do in Gibeah. We will go up by lot against it, and we will take 10 men of 100 throughout of the tribes of Israel, and 100 of 1,000, and 1,000 out of 10,000, to bring provision for the men, that when they come to Gibeah of Benjamin, they may do to them according to all the wicked folly which they have committed in Israel." So all the men of Israel gathered against the city, united as one man. The tribes of Israel sent men through all the tribes of Benjamin, saying, "What wickedness is this that has been done among you? Now therefore give up the men involved, the base fellows in Gibeah, that we may put them to death and put away evil and from Israel." But the Benjamites would not listen to the voice of their kinsmen, the Israelites. But the Benjamites out of the cities assembled in Gibeah to go out to battle against other Israelites. And the Benjamites mustered out of the city at that time 26,000 men who drew their sword, besides the inhabitants of Gibeah who mustered 700 chosen men. Among these were 700 chosen left-handed men. Even one could sling stones at a hair and not miss. And the men of Israel, other than Benjamin, mustered 400,000 men who drew their sword. All these men were men of war. The Israelites rose and went to the house of God, Bethel, and asked counsel of God, and said, "Which of us shall take the lead to battle against the Benjamites?" And the Lord said, "Judah shall go up first." Then the Israelites rose in the morning and camped against Gibeah, and the men of Israel went out to battle against Benjamin and set the battle in array against them at Gibeah. The Benjamites came forth out of Gibeah and fell to the ground that day, 22,000 men of the Israelites. But the people of the men of Israel took courage and strengthened themselves, and again set their battle line in the same place they formed it the first day. And the Israelites went up and wept before the Lord until evening, and asked the Lord, "Shall we go up again to battle against our brethren, the Benjamites?" And the Lord said, "Go up against them." So the Israelites came near against the Benjamites in the second day. The Benjamites went forth out of Gibeah against them on the second day and fell to the ground. And the Israelites again, 18,000 men, all of whom were swordsmen. Then all the Israelites, the whole army, went up and came out of the house of God, Bethel, and wept. And they sat there before the Lord and fasted that day until evening, and offered a burnt offering and peace offerings before the Lord. And the Israelites inquired of the Lord, for the ark of the covenant was there at Bethel in those days. And the Pharisee son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, ministered before it on these days, saying, "Shall we yet again go out to battle against the brethren, the Benjamites, or shall we quit?" And the Lord said, "Go up, for tomorrow I will deliver them into your hands." So Israel set men in ambush around about Gibeah. And the Israelites went up against the Benjamites on the third day and set themselves in array against Gibeah as at other times. And the Benjamites went out against their armies and were drawn away from the city, and they began to smite and kill some of the people as the other times in the highways, one of which goes up to Bethel and the others to Gibeah in the open city, about 30 men of Israel. And the Benjamites said, "They are routed before us at first." But the Israelites said, "Let us flee and draw them to the city of highways." And all the men of Israel rose out of the places of themselves, an array of Balaam, and the men of Israel in ambush rushed out to their place in the middle of Gibeah. And there against Gibeah 10,000 chosen men out of Israel, and the battle was heard hard. But the Benjamites did not know disaster was close upon them. And the Lord overcame Benjamin before Israel. And the Israelites destroyed of the Benjamites that day 25,100 men, of all whom were swordsmen. So the Benjamites saw that they were defeated, and the men of Israel gave ground to the Benjamites because they trusted the men in ambush, whom they had set against Gibeah. And the men of ambush quickly rushed upon Gibeah, and the liers in wait moved out and smote all the city in the sword. Now the appointed signal between the men of Israel and the men in ambush was that when they made a great cloud of smoke against the city, the men of Israel should all turn back in battle. Now Benjamin had begun to smite and kill some of the men of Israel, and 30 persons. They said, "Surely they are falling before us, as is the first battle." And when the signal cloud began to rise out of the city in the pillar of smoke, the Benjamites looked behind them, and behold, the whole of the city went up in smoke to the heavens. When the men of Israel turned back again, the men of Benjamin were dismayed, for they saw the disaster had come upon them. Therefore they turned their back before the men of Israel and fled toward the wilderness. But the battle followed close behind and overtook them, and the inhabitants of the cities destroyed those Benjamites who came through them in their midst. They surrounded the Benjamites, pursued them, and overtook and trod them down at their resting place as far as opposite Gibeah toward the east. And there fell 18,000 men of Benjamin, all of them men of valor. And the Benjamites turned and fled toward the wilderness of the rock of Rimmon. And Israel picked off the highways, 5,000 men of them. They pursued hard after them to Giddon, and slew 2,000 more of them. So that all of Benjamin who fell that day was 25,000 men who drew the sword, and all of them men of valor. But 600 men turned and fled to the wilderness to the rock Rimmon, and remained at the rock Rimmon for 4 months. And the men of Israel turned back against Benjamites and smote them with the sword, men and beasts, and all they found. Also they set fire all the towns in which they came.